This is our Canon C70 Handheld Rig for wedding and commercial work. Well, that's mine. We'll also walk you through a more compact build tailored just for Vic that weighs less. But with the recent Canon C80 announcement, we feel that there's going to be a lot of C70s entering the secondhand market, as well as some impending price drops. So we thought that this would be the perfect time to break down our handheld rig. And with the C80 having almost identical dimensions to the C70, this rig can be easily adapted to that camera as well. Now at the heart of this rig, as we've mentioned already, is the C70, which we have been using since their release in late 2020. We really do love this camera, and it has only gotten better with every firmware update. The images we've been able to create with them are simply mind-blowing, and they have elevated our work to new levels. Now it's not a perfect camera, and we could make a whole video about the things we love and don't love about the C70, but in our opinion, it's still one of the best cameras you can get for wedding filmmaking in 2024. There were a lot of people that connected with us pushing the C100 Mark IIs to their limits and using them for as long as we did. In a similar way, I don't foresee any real reason to upgrade from a C70 anytime soon, aside from small quality of life improvements. In fact, we love the form factor so much that we'll likely be replacing our C300 Mark IIIs with a C80 once that's released. But on a gimbal, on a tripod, on a monopod, or even just handheld, the C70 is an absolute beast. So we can start building our rig from here, and I'll make sure to link to all the accessories and parts we'll be discussing in the description below. But one of the key elements of any rig will be the camera cage, which provides all the mounting points for all the accessories we'll be using. And while there's a lot of options for the C70, the Tilta cage with its small footprint checked off all the boxes for us. Different cages will work better for different shooting situations and different configurations, but we felt that most of the options out there were either too clunky or made out of all these different parts that come together. The Tilta cage is essentially one form-fitting piece of metal with all the mounting points that we needed. It also helps that it's one of the more budget-friendly options out there. The great thing about the Tilta cage is that it's part of a larger ecosystem, and we've added their 15mm base plate to expand our rig. That way we can add rods for things like lens support brackets and external power. For our rig specifically, we're using a pair of 6-inch carbon fiber rods from Small Rig on the back end of the base plate. We do this so we can use our gold mount batteries to power everything on the rig. I fought external power solutions for so long, and I'm not really sure why. I think I was intimidated by learning new things like power consumption and voltage and wattage, and in my mind I had this vision of turning the battery on and frying absolutely every single piece of equipment connected to it. But in reality, it's really simple and completely worth it. One single battery can power our cameras for almost an entire wedding day. We usually won't even swap them until we're nearing the end of our reception. We're using the Core SWX 98 Wh batteries, which we strongly recommend as they are more compact and will keep your rig smaller and lighter. We're also using the gold mount versions as we prefer how these attach. You get that satisfying click to let you know that everything is secure, but you can just as well use the V-mount version. To get this battery mounted on our rig, we're using a budget-friendly battery plate from Canvate. This is technically just a standard cheese plate with a battery plate and rod clamp already attached. And once mounted on our rods, we can snap our external batteries on and off. But because we want to connect multiple accessories to our battery, we're going to need a D-tap splitter, which essentially connects to the one D-tap port on the battery to give us multiple ports to work with. And when it comes to splitters, you really can't beat the Condor Blue D-tap hub in terms of looks and mounting options. We wanted to be able to build our rig as quick as possible, and we didn't want to be screwing or zip tying any pieces together. So we attached a Condor Blue 2-inch NATO rail to this hub and attached a Condor Blue NATO clamp to our rods so that this piece can slide on and off easily. We then connect our splitter to the battery plate, and the cable kind of naturally runs under the back of the camera, which is nice. We're using the Shape D-tap cable to power our C70. It's an unregulated cable, but because the C70 can take 11.5 to 20 volts of power through its DC in, the 14.8 volts that our battery is sending is perfect. Moving towards the top of the rig, we've attached a 2.8-inch Small Rig low-profile NATO rail so that we can use this wood-accented top handle, also from Small Rig. And while this top handle has all the mounting options you'd need for a monitor, because we prefer our NATO monitor mount, we've also attached a 3.5-inch low-profile Small Rig NATO rail on top of the handle. We have a couple of options that we use for monitors on these. The Small HD Cine 7, which is one of our all-time favorite monitors. It's got an incredible color profile, all the tools you'd need, and 1800 nits of brightness, which is just enough to not need a sun hood outdoors. But because we're usually using the Cine 7 on the gimbal with the C300 Mark III, most of the time we're using the Atomos Shinobi 5-inch monitor. Being longtime Small HD users, these are actually our first Atomos monitors ever, and we're really happy with them. They're incredibly light, have tons of monitoring features, and are super affordable. They also have one of the simplest and better sun hood options we've ever tested. We're actually shooting on the Mark Is, but there's a slimmer, lighter, 1500 nit version that just came out that we'll definitely be picking up for the next season. We're using the Condor Blue D-Tap to Sony L dummy battery cable to connect our monitors to power, as well as one of their HDMI cables to connect it to our C70s. These coiled cables go a long way in keeping our rig looking neat and organized, but if you have longer uncoiled cables, we definitely recommend picking up a few spray cable management hooks. For audio, we're using the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. The truth is that on-camera audio is overrated and leaves a lot to be desired, so this is simply for scratch audio or any nat sounds that we wouldn't be able to do Foley for. Things like bridesmaids doing a cheers. But for any important piece of dialogue, our subjects would be wearing a lav mic, and like I said, we do Foley for any important on-screen sounds that require it, so this is really just a good backup. Last but definitely not least, what lenses are we shooting with on these rigs? Well, for the better part of the last 2 years, aside from gimbals, we've been exclusively shooting weddings handheld. Because we're predominantly shooting in 60p, the subtle movement adds a dreamlike quality that we find really complements our style. While gimbals can sometimes feel too produced for morning preps and the more candid moments of the day, we feel that handheld adds just the right amount of spice, especially when you embrace your shakes. That being said, because we are predominantly shooting in slow motion, we do have a little more wiggle room with our lens choices, as our jitters are less apparent. We are shooting on the 0.71 focal reducer pretty much all day unless we require the extra reach during a ceremony, and our favorite pairings have been the EF35L Mark II, the 50L 1.2, and the 85L 1.4. We've also been getting some crazy footage on dance floors with the 24L Mark II. And if we're shooting 24p and require image stabilization, the 24-105L Mark II is definitely a winner. But because this rig is so well balanced, once you have your technique down, you can definitely make any lens work with minimal jitters. Now, while I don't find this rig too cumbersome, Mig does like to keep her setups as light as possible, and if you're not shooting commercial work that requires wireless transmitters or any other accessories, you can simplify the whole thing with a D-Tap Canon battery from Core SWX. While there's a few companies that make these type of batteries, the quality seems to be hit or miss, and Core SWX is just a name that we've come to trust. With these batteries, we can do without our base plate, our rods, our splitter, and our external power altogether, and simply connect our monitor to the single D-Tap port on the back. They do provide about 20% more power than a BPA60 battery, and just like our other setup, can power our cameras for almost an entire wedding day. So those are the two Canon C70 handheld rigs we find ourselves building the most. We've gone through so many different versions and iterations and so many rounds of trial and error, and we thought we'd save you guys the trouble and get you out there shooting some beautiful handheld footage. We also wanted to let you know that we've started offering one-on-one online mentorship sessions for those of you who want to become better filmmakers. These sessions can tackle anything from filming techniques, color grading, and crafting amazing client experiences in the luxury market. If you're interested in signing up, make sure to click the link on the screen. As I mentioned, I've listed everything we talked about in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you found this video useful or interesting, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Till next time.